In this week's episode, we're going to look at why nobody is buying coaching. I had a Zoom call with a coach last week, and in it, this coach told me that she's been in business for 18 months. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And how many clients have you picked up in that time? And she said, none. And I said, oh, right, so what have you been doing? And she said, oh, I've been running my business. And I was a bit taken aback. And I said, what do you mean running your business? And she said, oh, I was setting up my limited company, creating my branding, developing my website. And I said, oh, right, your website. So what's that for? And she looked a bit taken aback and she said, well, so that I can get inquiries. And I said, oh, right. Who will you get those inquiries from? And she said, well, anybody who lands on my website, of course. And I said, right, and who's going to land on your website? And she said, well, people who are looking for coaches. And I said, where are they looking for coaches? And she said, Google searches, people who are Googling for a coach. Now, by this time, she was looking at me like I was a bit mad. And I said, nobody's looking for a coach. And she was outraged. She said, goodness me, what are you talking about? Of course people are looking for coaches. People are Googling for coaches. And I said, well, can I suggest that you go and have a look at the Google keyword tool? Because you will find out really quickly that the number of people who are looking for a coach, searching on Google for a coach, is devastatingly small. And she was so taken aback that we paused our conversation for a minute while she went to go and have a look. She came back and she was a little bit shaken. And she said, there are really very few people looking for coaches. And I said, I know. And she said, but I don't understand. How am I supposed to build a coaching business if nobody's looking for a coach? And that's a really good question. So if we look at her website, now I'll cover websites in a whole different episode because there's lots to be said about websites, but let's just look at her website for a moment. There are 3 trillion URLs plus in the world. That's trillion. That's a lot of zeros. The chances of somebody happening upon yours is infinitesimally small. And the chances of them happening upon it and going, goodness me, coaching, that's what I need, is even smaller. The only traffic that will find your website is traffic that you have driven to your website. And what I mean by that is where you have put your website link in places where you're visible, maybe LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., etc. If you put your website link there and somebody clicks on it, that's somebody who has been driven to your website. Most coaches aren't aware that they're supposed to be driving traffic to their website. And even if they are, the website, when the person lands there, is often not what it should be. But as I said, I'll cover that in a later episode. So this coach was saying to me, how am I supposed to build a business if nobody's looking for coaching? And the answer to that question is by not trying to sell coaching. Now, I know that sounds a little bit backwards, but let me explain what I mean. The problem with coaching is that nobody knows what it is. Or worse, they think they know what it is and they're wrong. And those two things they pretty much cover everybody when you're talking about coaching. And so when you market something that nobody understands, you are really up against it. And what coaches try to do is describe the coaching process. They try to sell coaching by explaining that it helps people reach goals and overcome limiting beliefs and mental barriers. And the problem with that is that nobody buys processes. People buy outcomes. And so in order to sell coaching, you basically don't talk about coaching. You find a client who has a problem that can be resolved by coaching. You identify exactly what that problem is and that it is keeping them awake at night. It needs to be something that has a big impact on their lives. and then you talk about that problem and more specifically what their life would look like without that problem. Now, I know that a lot of coaches can get really hung up on the idea of talking about problems, but we're not talking about coaching here. We're talking about marketing. When you are sitting with your client and you are coaching them, then absolutely you don't want to focus on the negatives and you don't want to talk about problems. You want to be optimistic and talk about solutions. But while you're marketing, you need somebody to go, gosh, that person is talking about me. I have that problem. That's how it's impacting my life. I want to be rid of it. I need a conversation with this coach. The 3 a.m. problem is simply a hook to engage the potential client in a conversation. Now, we all know as coaches that somebody can come to you with a specific problem, and by the time you get 2 or 3 sessions in, you're talking about something completely different, and the thing that they thought was the problem is very rarely the thing that actually is the problem. And so it is with this. The purpose of your marketing is not for you to develop an entire coaching practice that only ever focuses on one thing. It is to engage somebody in a conversation in the first place, to start working with them to eliminate that particular problem. And then of course, you're on the delivery side, so you move into coaching and their whole lives will be up for conversation. Believe me when I tell you, nobody is buying coaching, but that doesn't mean that you can't sell it. Remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single episode. I really look forward to helping you thrive in your coaching business.